Hi, folks. I am a little under the weather. I have a cold. You can probably hear it in my voice. And if I sneeze or something, that's why my eyes are kind of puffed up and I'm sneezy and runny nose. And it's been a journey over the past week or so. Those of you who are members of my channel and know that I started to fall sick last week. So anyway, there's only one date this week that has aspects going on, and specifically, that is July the 4th. On July the 4th, Venus conjuncts Uranus in Taurus and then enters the sign of Gemini. And then the other thing that happens on July the 4th is that Neptune turns retrograde in the sign of Aries. That's it. If we were to look ahead a little bit into next week, then on the 7th, on Monday, Venus in Gemini trines Pluto. And Uranus also enters Gemini. This is the year, 2025 is the year when Neptune, Saturn, Uranus both go into the next signs. For Saturn and Neptune, it's from Pisces to Aries. For Uranus, it's Taurus to Gemini. But then they retrograde back into their old signs, if I can use that word. And then it's next year that they actually transition completely into the next signs. So both Neptune and Saturn are currently in Aries. Neptune goes retrograde in Aries on July the 4th, starting his process of retrograding back into Pisces later on this year. Saturn is going to go retrograde in the middle of July, I'm pretty sure. Let me confirm that for you. This is from Aries. Saturn goes retrograde July the 13th. And Uranus is getting ready to move into Gemini temporarily, and then Uranus will go retrograde and come back into Taurus late this year. So let's put our attention first towards Venus. And the transit that I'm most intrigued by, and it is really, for all intents and purposes, it is our one aspect, so to speak, which is that Venus conjuncts Uranus in Taurus. And let's just say that for the past week or so, Uranus in Taurus since 2018 has been trying to get us to follow our individual sorry, I warned you this would happen. The path that is right for us. And over the last week, wherever Venus goes, she scatters blessings, next steps, financial opportunities, relationship opportunities, creative opportunities. I would just keep an eye out for whatever has gone on over the past 3 or 4 days, next 3 or 4 days, and I would show up to it. It's as simple as that. Right now, Venus is trailing the sun and the new moons and Mercury pretty significantly. I mean, Mercury's already in Leo. The last new moon was in Cancer. The sun is in Cancer. And Venus is still in Taurus, soon to be Gemini. And she's gathering speed. She's going to move towards conjuncting the sun. She's going to get closer and closer to these planets. And Mercury soon is going to get retrograde and is going to get closer and closer back to the sun as well. So they're going to start coming together. They're not going to be so far apart anymore, but certainly by the end of July, in about a month's time. But when Venus is trailing the sun and Mercury and the new moons, and you guys have heard me say so, she builds on the actions that were taken when Mercury went through Taurus and the sun went through Taurus, and particularly the month of Taurus that occurred between the end of April to the end of May. And she determines, if you were knocking on a certain number of doors or planting a certain number of seeds, which of those seeds and which of those doors would open, even if it's just a crack. Which of those seeds would start to germinate? It's like she's going to come and say, okay, I'm going to bless this and this and this, and this will have next steps. Doesn't mean that favorable outcome is guaranteed always with Venus, but she moves things forward. She moves things along. It's a blessing to have Venus wherever she is. Now, she's going to move into Gemini from July the 4th to the end of July. And the very first thing that she's going to do is trine Pluto in Aquarius. Again, all very positive and helpful and promising, and building on the new moon in Gemini that we had a little over a month ago, which was not quite trining Pluto, but just after the trine to Pluto that Mercury had made. Actually, Mercury trine Pluto was encoded into that Gemini new moon. So if we look to the sun entering Gemini around the 22nd of May, and Mercury entering Gemini on the 26th of May, and the new moon in Gemini occurring on the 26th of May, and that new moon occurring just after the sun trined Pluto, but with Mercury trining Pluto just about to happen and encoded into that new moon all the way to up until we had the new moon in Cancer on the 25th of June, then Venus coming in starting July the 4th gets to, in the Gemini part of the chart, extend, expand, bless, provide next steps, particularly related to financial opportunities, relationship opportunities, provides a certain amount of harmony, day-to-day luck, and creative opportunities, beautification, luxuries, flow, abundance, all lovely. And the trine to Pluto, the idea that these faster moving planets would take some action in the Gemini part of the chart, where Jupiter had spent about 13 months from May the 25th of 24 to June the 8th of 25, ending a 12-13-year cycle, starting a 12-13-year cycle. You know, there could be some sort of initial contribution from the Gemini part of the chart towards Pluto dismantling what he's dismantling in the Aquarius part of the chart, so that he can transform the Aquarius part of the chart, the house occupied by Aquarius in your chart, to your advantage and benefit all the way to 2042. It's all very preliminary. It's all very initial right now. But it's helpful. It's positive. Now, for those of you who are not astrology aficionados, I would just say, if over the last week and over the next week, let's just put it that way, or till July the 4th, which is 3 days away, you have opportunities to take forward, then I would show up to them to the best of my ability. And with Neptune going retrograde, a retrograde Neptune and a Saturn are going to conjunct on the 16th of July. And indeed, on the 16th of July, I think even Saturn will be retrograde by that time, but they will be close together. And then Saturn will start to back up more and more, and then they're going to conjunct again. And this is the conjunction that we've all been looking at and looking towards, which is a conjunction on February 26th, I think, of next year, or thereabouts. And both these conjunctions in the sign of Aries. And it wouldn't surprise me at all, with Saturn having been in Aries from May the 20th of this year to September 1st of this year, along with Neptune, close to Neptune, their conjunction becoming complete on July the 16th, and then in February of next year, if between May the 20th and especially till September the 1st, because as we head towards September the 1st, we're going to start to feel, remember all that I was saying in the first 5 months of this year about stabilizing the Pisces part of the chart? Well, that refrain is going to start up again as we head towards September the 1st, and Saturn goes back into Pisces on that day, all the way to the middle of February. You and I both know that there's unfinished business in the Pisces part of the chart, that we made a certain amount of progress, but the I's need to be dotted and the T's need to be crossed. And we're going to deal with that later this year and early next year. And it's momentous, and it'll be important. It'll be helpful to get it on done. And Jupiter and Europe and Neptune, you know, the planet that has been creating such chaos and potentially artistic opportunities and therapeutic opportunities and spiritual opportunities in the Pisces part of the chart that Saturn is trying to stabilize. Remember that word. You know, we're gonna come back to that energy between September the 1st and the middle of February of next year, September the 1st of this year. Quite frankly, we'll start to feel it once Saturn goes retrograde, because both Saturn and Neptune are in Aries, but they aren't even past, I don't think they're past the 3rd degree. So as these planets go retrograde, we're going to feel that with their orbs coming back into Pisces even before August the 1st. Excuse me, September the 1st. So with a retrograde Neptune, what this is doing is it's starting to move us towards that exact conjunction on July the 16th. And really that conjunction is about either putting some structure around Neptunian plans and goals in the house occupied by Aries in your chart, or to ensure that in the Aries part of the chart you are not acting in a Neptunian way to your detriment, where you are underselling yourself or finding yourself in situations where you are giving more than you receive, or you're somehow being self-sacrificing. As I've said to you before, I'm really happy that Saturn is going to be with Neptune for the first 2 years of Neptune's transit through Aries, because it may be that he's able to provide some structure and learning and lessons around how to manage and work with Neptune's energy in Aries. I am going to leave it at this because I'm going to do a separate video on this Saturn-Neptune conjunction, and we'll talk about it more. I've already talked about it a certain amount. And if you just were to just scan the sort of, even the last 25, the free videos, the non-member related videos that I've done, you'll see some interesting content there about Saturn in Aries and Neptune in Aries, some of my most popular recent videos. But I'm going to address the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, the exact conjunction, in a separate video. One other thing that actually happened next week that is intriguing and is going to be a subject of its own video, and I think you will understand why, is that Mercury goes retrograde on July the 17th in Leo, and then goes direct again on August the 10th or 11th. And Mercury has entered his shadow degrees, the degrees that he is going to go over 3 times as of, gosh, was it June 29th? Like a couple of days ago. Hold on. Yep, June 29th. So, excuse me. So this video really, it's a very brief, you know, Venus conjuncting Uranus and Venus going over Taurus has been a sign that she rules. We're always happy, you know, just as we have to contend with Saturn being in some part of our chart, transiting some part of our chart, and Pluto transiting some part of our chart, and Neptune transiting some part of our chart, and Mars transiting some part of our chart. We also get to take advantage of Venus transiting some part of our chart, you know. And out of all the planets, her blessings are the most unalloyed, uncomplicated. Here, this interview. Here, this email. Here, this opportunity. Here, a certain amount of harmony. Here, a certain amount of mutual support. You know, Jupiter, who's considered the big lucky planet, shows his luck sometimes in very twisted ways with an ending. As I said, creating an auspicious new beginning, creating a lucky break. But a lucky break means that something has to end. So Jupiter transits can sometimes, you know, someone's expecting a promotion, they could get laid off, and it's like a start of a 12, 13-year cycle wherever Jupiter's transiting. So it has its own drama and turmoil, and, you know, out of all the planets, in some ways, Venus is the most anti-drama of planets, sometimes to her own detriment. But the bottom line is, it would be worth it to think about over the last week, or even to be more precise, the last 4 or 5 days and the next 3 days or so, about the house occupied by Taurus in your chart. And as I said, if there are things, opportunities for you to meet and take advantage, I would show up to them at this point in time. This video gives you a sense that there are 2 other videos to follow, one about the Neptune-Saturn conjunction and one about the upcoming Mercury retrograde. I would not worry about the Mercury retrograde right now. Mercury's still moving forward relatively quickly for the next week and a half, 2 weeks or so. I would say even till about the 12th of July, 10th of July certainly, it's all systems go and forward movement. And I will really expect to find Mercury's kind of showing itself up around the 13th, 14th of July. You know, we'll start that retrograde, even that 15th of July is when we might start to feel that retrograde energy. And there's going to be a separate video on it, darlings. Don't, you know, we've been through plenty of Mercury retrogrades together, and you know a lot of what I'm going to say as a reminder. All right, I will leave it at this. Not every video has to be drama-filled, and this one concerns Venus for the most part, so it's appropriately not drama-filled. There are 3 ways to avail of my services, the free content I put out on this particular channel, like this video. If you find this video somewhat light, I don't think there's anything wrong with having a relatively light week astrologically, considering some of the weeks we've had since the beginning of this year and everything that we're dealing with. And even though this is a weekly overview, so it just concerns Venus conjuncting Uranus and Venus entering Gemini, that doesn't mean that the rest of the transits that are currently occurring are necessarily light, but you know that, you feel that. You can always, if you find this relatively light, take a look at my new moon in Cancer video, or take a look at that test video that I just before the new moon in Cancer video, just in case you're new to the channel and want to be like, what is the content here like, so you can figure out whether you want to subscribe or watch more of my videos. Another way to avail of my services is to become a member. For $6.99 a month, I am doing rising sign specific videos, but really for the rising signs in the membership part of the channel. You can watch them for your sun and moon. If you're interested in getting a personal reading with me, my email address is in the description box below. You can email me there. Feel free to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. When you subscribe, there's a bell icon next to the subscribe button. Hover over that wiggly bell on top, click on that. You'll be notified when I do new videos. Comment in the video, like the video. There's a free ways to contribute to the channel. You can contribute monetarily by using the thanks button underneath this video, or by donating using the information in the description box below. I'm going to leave it at that. Feel free to share information about my channel with anyone who might find it useful. It almost feels like all my housekeeping has taken as long as this weekly overview. Let us just, in terms of the weekly overview, let's just pay attention to that Venus-Uranus conjunction. Some people with Uranus will say, oh, lightning will strike or something sudden will happen. I don't think of I don't experience Uranus in a sudden way. I just think that it is preoccupied with authenticity and having us show up in a way that feels really right to us, doing the work that is right to us, the contacts that are right for us, the path that is right for us, the relationships that are right for us, the financial byways that are right for us, the way of being, the breadcrumbs. I think of them as breadcrumbs. We often have choices. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And so often the North Node placement in our birth chart delineates the strategies that are going to be right for us in this lifetime that we're here to develop. That may not come to us naturally, but we're here to develop. And so I find that Uranus shows up very much around trying to get us to follow our path, to keep those appointments that we're meant to keep. So Venus conjuncting Uranus, I don't know that necessarily lightning will strike or how, you know, but you know, sometimes developments that occur that feel really right to us, you know, might feel like, yeah, this is a dramatic change. So if that's how it feels to you, that's wonderful. So just keep an eye out for that. That's a nice thing to have to keep an eye out for once. And then Venus enters Gemini, and she's going to start to scatter her blessings over the Gemini part of the chart. And then we get Neptune retrograde. With Neptune retrograde and Saturn, I really feel like since May the 20th, we've been feeling Saturn's energy with Neptune. So it's never about the exact date of an aspect, as I've said to you before. The energies are working so long as the planets are close to each other and approaching each other. So getting realistic about our goals in the Aries part of the chart and making sure that they are the goals that we are inspired to follow and concretize and structure, you know, that theme has been very present since May the 20th. As I've said to you before, it could be that in March, April, especially April and for the first couple of weeks of May, we may have made decisions that we later have questioned because they may have been Neptunian in the Aries part of the chart, where we have agreed to do something where we're the ones who are giving more than we are receiving. And Saturn coming in after May the 20th might be like, are you sure this is are you sure this is the game you want to play? More to follow on that. I will leave it at this. Have a wonderful week, and thank you for your patience. And send me good vibes so I can get over this darn cold. Okay, take care.